Okay, I'm back. So this is the sketch that I just quickly made. I figured out this is going to be that area there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with that as my home base of my drawing. So I'm going to take my cover off. Again, the cover is really important to have because it's already, you can already see it's got charcoaly. And it's funny because I did my sketch. You can see the drawing of all the sketch on the other side. It kind of picked it up, which is cool. Put that on the ground. Now, in terms of materials, I don't believe I forgot to bring them. Hold on one second. I don't know if you noticed, but my videos are one take. I do not like redoing it. All right. So in this case, probably won't use a blending stump yet, but I'm going to keep it out. You're going to want your compressed charcoal, and that's the one that looks like this. I just ripped the top cover off, and it has the little round guys. Now they do make another brand of compressed charcoal called Charcoal. They're square. They're not bad either. I just kind of like these, and that's the base we got. So you guys should know about that already. Must have a kneaded eraser. Must have a kneaded eraser. That's what we're going to be using now. And in addition, you're going to have your pack of pencils like this, and down. I forgot one more thing, which is over here. And I'm back. You're gonna have this guy. This is important. This is helpful. This thing erases quite well. All right, so your hands are gonna get dirty and you're gonna work to subtract. The other thing I didn't mention, which I did mention before, but I have a light source. I'm gonna angle it up. You can kind of see my light source right there. I'm shining it on my still life. So there's clear value shifts within the fabric. There's light tones, mid tones, and dark tones. And right now I'm looking for the light tones and I'm going to subtract those. And you might look at the dark brown sweatshirt and say, wow, that is just all dark. How do you subtract the light tone? I'm going to just make things light and dark right now. I'm not concerned about midtones yet. I'm not concerned about any of that. Eventually I'll start to differentiate between this light gray and the dark later on, but right now I'm just focusing on that. And because of my sketch, I decided to focus in this one area right here, which is right there. You can see. So I'm going to subtract that out. And in my sketch, it looks like it's about right here to here. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to go about right there. And you know the shape that I drew here, if you look really closely, that's a shape that I kind of drew. I put a square around it, but it's kind of this organic shape. And I'm going to subtract that shape. But notice I'm using a big blunt end. I'm not using, a lot of students will do this. They'll start to draw with line. They'll make this thing and they'll start to draw with line. They'll make it thin, and it's not what charcoal is intended to do. It's not using it to its advantage. Its advantage is fast, it's immediate. So you want to subtract big shapes quickly. You can get through this so fast, unlike a graphite drawing, which takes a long time. In the beginning, this is really quick. You can kind of get a sense of volume and form fast. So right now, I'm generalizing. I'm not measuring, I'm not citing, I'm just subtracting right now. Subtracting this shape here. Eventually, I will tighten up, but notice how dark this is. It's going to knead it inside of itself. Sometimes it sticks to your fingers, but you have to knead it because it gets dark really quickly because you put a lot of charcoal on here and we're subtracting. And when you subtract, one more thing is you're forcing yourself to look at shapes. Shapes that you see here, shapes that light makes. So light hits a form, creates a shape. It could look at the shape of New Hampshire. I don't know. That's what you're going to subtract. It's an abstract shape. but you're trying to figure it out. It's like, oh, it goes on a diagonal up. I just noticed this goes on a diagonal up, and I have it all on the straight horizontal line. So maybe I'll start to consider that now. Okay, that's it. That's my subtraction. That's what that is right there. I'm not going to go any more into articulation, specificity, nothing like that. I'm just subtracting, and I'm going to subtract a little bit more, but I'm going to use this as my base, or as my reference points, my home base. Now there's a shape that's right, it's hard to point without blocking the view. There's a shape that's right here. Can you see that? Right here. And it's not center of this, it's to the right. And then there's a little dark space next to it. So it's like right here. And I'm just kind of like suggesting where it is. It's just throwing it there. I'm not sure where it is yet. I'm just like, I think it's in that area. I'm just gonna take out some stuff. And then now I'm gonna start to go to the right. So you kind of have to like the, I used to have this metaphor and I totally forgot what it is. The tiger claw. Whatever, it will come back to me. So now I'm starting to put this shape in here. At the same time I'm looking at that dark shape, which is right here, I'm leaving that. And there's these kind of like two things that go out. And actually they're a lot further than what I thought. Now I just noticed that I'm going to have some of the background in. I might just leave it dark. I didn't realize I didn't want that to happen. It's going to happen. But you have to figure it out as you go, because I'm committing to this, and this is a one-shot take. Otherwise I'd probably do this, try this again. All right, so that goes over here, way over there too. I think it's up there. And then there's this little thing here, and this kind of goes off. So this little section here is going to be like the background. All right, now I'm going to go back to my home base, and I'm going to go this way. I'm not concerned about this, even though this is lighter in value than the rest of everything. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go there first because it is the lightest value, and I should have done that in the first place. So let me just take some of that out now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little darker, just so I can differentiate between the two. And I'm holding to my board so it doesn't kind of fall on me. Trying to locate exactly where that cuff is going to be. Okay. That's here. And notice I'm constantly taking this out. You might look at my drawing and be like, what the heck is he doing? I don't see any of that. Remember, general to specific, you're just taking shapes out, and you're trying to, if you could blur your vision and just see 3 or 4 shapes, what would that look like? It might look like that, and that's kind of what I'm forcing you to look in the beginning of the drawing. Then you start to think about details later on, but way later on. All right. All right. So now, what I'm going to do, I'm going here just a little bit more. I call this stealing from Peter to pay Paul. Take a little, just use your finger. Take a little charcoal from somewhere in the dark spot and add it here. And if it doesn't work that well, you can kind of see it's picking up a little value. If it doesn't work that well, you can just grab some charcoal. Get your charcoal stick. I like to break these in half and just throw a little charcoal here. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to differentiate between this is the brown of the dark value, that's brown, of the top fabric, and then this is the light gray that's below it. And I'm trying to differentiate between the two shapes. Now I can start to think about the sleeve, the sock, and whatever else I can get in here. Okay. You can throw a little more if you want. And I'm throwing a little bit of, so sometimes you're going to add, I just threw in a little dark spot that I see right there. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's there. All right, next thing I'm going to do is take my kneaded eraser, and you should be drawing with this. You should be drawing with big blunt tools. And this is a drawing tool. You know, it's called an eraser. It takes off a line, but in this case, you're drawing. You're looking at shapes and you're drawing. It's very similar to painting too. All right, so now I'm going to follow. This is where my sleeve is. And remember, this is a roughing. All this stuff's going to get not moved, but adjusted. That's a better word. This is the sleeve. I'm not putting a sock in yet. I'm going to wait till later. And because I'm doing a demonstration video, I can't really see on this side. I have to put my head all the way over there and go from memory. Don't want you to do that. I have to do it for the purpose of the setup here. So you should be able to see everything and hardly turn your head to what you're looking at. All right, so the nice thing about this, you're going to start to see like shapes connecting and colliding if you put them in the right spot. You're like, oh good, this ends up with this and this blends over here. This thing comes over here and comes down there. Oh, that's good. All right, so I'm going to leave that for now. This is kind of my first round, right? And then after this, and you want to kind of just run it through the rest, but after that, then you're going to go back to your home base. And remember, this is my home base. It might take you a while to find it. You might have to work around it for a while. That's the metaphor. Catch the tiger by the tail. This is the tail, and I'm pulling the tail in. So I'm focusing on this one section here. I'm going to slowly articulate this, and I'm going to use that again to run another layer all the way across, around it. So I'll show you what I'm going to do next. In this case, I'm going to use a smaller tool, and this is my eraser pencil here, and I'm going to ride the top of the line there, and it goes on a bit of an angle, kind of like right here. And then it curls in like right there. And then it curls down like right here. So what I'm going to do, you can kind of see that line I just put in, right? I'm going to go on the other side of the line with my charcoal, and I'm going to make it a little darker so I can emphasize that line. And an area when you're trying to find that point of focal, or no, it's not really the focal point, the home base, the point of reference, look for an area that has contrast. So for example, that's why I'm kind of honing in on here, because on the other side of that shape is dark, and on the front of it is light. And it's a simple shape for me to understand, because it kind of like curls down here, and it's pretty simple to see. So I'm going to put some dark values here. I'm going to smear these in. Smear these in, smear these in. So you can start to see it's getting a little bit more clear in terms of an edge. Before it was just a rough in. Now it's become a little more clear in terms of an edge. And I put that in. And I had a little charcoal on my finger, so I just kind of added it here. Now there's this little section here. I had this going up, but now I notice it goes actually down and it meets the edge of this little turn here. So I get my kneaded eraser and I'm going to start to put that in. And you kind of see that this shape here is starting to get a little more smaller, whereas before it wasn't even accurate. And I know a little more smaller is not proper English, but so I apologize for that. There's also, so this shape here, this dark shape kind of ends right here, and there's this light moment right there. Just wanted to get that in. This starts to turn here, it goes down there. Notice I'm still kind of drawing with straight lines in a sense. If you look at this, it looks very geometric at times. I know you're looking at fabric and you say, oh, it's so organic and curvilinear. Yes, it is, but there's a lot of straight lines. And then you can always do the rounds after the fact, just like you did in drawing. So don't jump the gun there. I'm going back to my home base a little bit, and I just went out in there. Now I'm gonna go here and work my way down. I call this spider webbing yourself out of an area. Home base, up, home base, down, home base, over, home base this way, home base that way, home base that way, okay? And that way you can kind of sight measure intuitively as you go instead of just running. You don't wanna draw something way over here and then commit to something way over here, and then the parts in the middle are so off that you're gonna have to redraw this, and you've already committed to it and you're not gonna wanna redraw it. So stay put. Rough this out and then slowly articulate with your home base. So, I don't know if you can see it, but right where this gray meets the brown, there's this kind of like dark line where they meet, and it's going to help me to figure out some other parts. And it looks like it goes on a diagonal like this, so I'm just kind of like roughing it in there. And then I think this brown kind of comes in and does this, and then it goes back up, and then there's the gray line there. And I think that's what that does. I don't know exactly how long, but that's what I'm going to go with right now. And so now, since I put that line in, I'm going to smooth it out here. Seems to be a value streak like right here, so I'm just going to put that in. And then I'm going to start to take out where I put that line. So that line was just an edge where those two things met. And you can kind of see my home base is slowly starting to form. It's going to look like this for a while until you kind of get one area articulated, and then you're going to start to say, oh, that's how you do it. I just walk myself out of that area little by little. And in a few minutes, I'm going to stop and then have you guys, or just do a quick time lapse where you can just watch me work. Pick up some of the tricks that way. And now I'm going to put in this, I think where this comes in. And so when you're drawing, you're starting to look at, you probably did this project in drawing one called positive negative shape, where you draw the negative shape to create the positive shape. When you're drawing this, because it's so chaotic and tricky to grab onto, to catch a tiger by the tail. You need to look at the shape that's next to the shape you're drawing to make sure that shape is accurate as well. So you're kind of like 1 or 2 steps ahead. So as I'm drawing this shape, I'm looking above it, I'm looking below it. I'm looking at that, I call this almost a negative shape here, whereas mine's pretty big, and I'm looking at that, and it's much smaller. So I have to figure out, is this corner in more? And if so, does this go up more? But that's fine, I can do that on the 3rd round. You can do like 15 rounds probably. I can do that on the 3rd round. So I'm just quickly doing a rough once over, and then you do another rough once over, another rough once over, and you always go back to your home base. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pause this, and then I'm gonna do a time lapse. And I'll talk to you guys later. All right, so I'm just gonna keep the camera where it is. I'm gonna do another time lapse, but you can kind of see where I am right now. I've been articulating edges, and I focused here, and I started to even articulate the edge, the fold that's here, what's above it. I kind of started to creep up here, not too far, because I can't go too far away from my home base, which is here, this thing, this like horizontal shape. And then I started to creep up in here, and I love some of the folds that are here. So like these big organic turning forms that are all connected together. So it's really important that you don't start articulating something out here, because by the time you get there, the distance between there and there might not be accurate. So you might have to move whatever's up here down here and then redraw everything. So that's why I'm really want you to focus on staying in your home base, and then you can kind of work out from that point. As I'm working this, I'm starting to try to differentiate between the light value of the gray on a sweater and then the darker brown. And it's difficult because I only have so many values here. And eventually I can get there, but I'm just going to introduce a couple tools that I'm going to start to use now. One you probably saw me using in the time lapse, but this guy here, it's a blending stump. What I usually do if I want to make an area darker, or I'll take some charcoal from an area that's already dark, put it on the stump, as you can kind of see, it's dark, right? And then I'll put it in an area that needs it, and you can kind of see that. Let me just do a better job of that. So you can kind of see that I just added value right there. And so for example, if there's an area that's, like for example, if this is darker, I can make this darker here, and then say I want to make this side darker too. I just kind of pulled it over and I made it darker. And that way there's just as many value ranges and spectrum of value in the dark areas as there are in the light, and this will help you achieve that. But again, this is like the 3rd or 4th round or phase that I'm doing, and I'm going to go over this again and again and again, and each phase I tighten it up more and more and more. For right now, I'm okay with that. I'll go back to it once I get to the point, just make sure all the drawing is in the right spot. Like I might have to move this down a hair, so I don't want to start articulating all the subtle values, because it goes from dark and it gets really dark down in here, and that's what's going to create this thing to kind of turn in. So once I get bored, not bored, but once I'm finished my phase up here, and then I start to kind of work down here, trying to bring everything up kind of together, and then again I go back to my home base, and then I can tighten that up again, and what I learn here I apply around here. Another tool I'm going to introduce are these guys. Now I'm not going to bring in the white charcoal pencil yet, but at some point I will, and I'll show you what I mean by that. But some of these drawings look beautiful without the white charcoal pencil. I like to use the white charcoal pencil, but it's it can, if you never used it before, it can get really muddy and ruin the whole entire drawing. So I'm going to ask you guys to hold off on that for the moment. And maybe we'll just kind of keep this charcoal as far as we can take it. So what I'm going to have you do is take out your set, and if you look here, you're looking for the one that says soft. There's soft and extra soft. You're not going to really use the medium one. I mean, you can, but and I'll leave the other one. So I'm just going to go for extra soft. The nice thing about this, and you also saw me using this tool, because now I'm starting to get in deep of some of these little nooks and crannies, these smaller shapes, and I'm starting to articulate the form and get the fold of the fabric, and there's a light, there's a highlight, a mid-tone, and a reflected light on just about everything here. And that's why we drew this sphere first, so you kind of see how light hits a sphere. These are just different versions of spheres, all these little piles of fabric clumped together. So because I'm going in smaller spaces, I now need smaller tools. And I try to have you guys not use small tools too early, because then you start to think small and you start to work on small areas before you should go there. So that's why I'm saying now you can start to think about these. And I would go back into this area here, and then I can start to fill this in. And just articulate those edges. And I'm basically just going over what I just did. But even here, I can draw, I can help draw, I can cite certain angles. Like if there's a line here, I can be like, oh, there's point to that line there. That starts here and it comes out here. I think that's where it is. Or is it over more? Maybe it's over more. Maybe it's here. I'm not sure. And then this goes down. So you can kind of draw with this a little bit. I'm going to erase this guy because I put that in the wrong spot. You can start to use these, especially here, like right here, it gets a little, this is a good example. A little dark here, dark here, dark here. This is a lighter value. And it will help you articulate edges. Edges, edges, edges. This is what this whole thing is about. Right here is a hard edge, and I haven't really gotten there yet, but what I'm gonna do is I'm going to lighten this, and I'm gonna use this to create that hard edge. And then I'm gonna blend that line down. And then I'm going to go on the other side with my pencil, because if you use your chalk stick, it's too round. You don't know where the edge is, and it's kind of hard to see. So you can kind of go in there with the chalk stick and go on the other side of the edge. And clarify that hard edge. Now you can kind of see that I made that area there really clear and distinct. And if it's too light, because it's the same value as this, which it isn't, then you get your blending stump, and you can go right up there and make it a little darker. But the nice thing about it, that hard edge stays. And so you worked on that side, you work on this side, and then you can go back in and adjust the value without losing that hard edge. So once you start to learn your big tools, this and the charcoal, and how your finger can smear and blah, 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 then you can start using the smaller tools, which are just microcosms of your big tools. And you kind of see that I'm putting this in. But I retain my hard edge. Super important, because this area now is starting to become resolved and not finished yet, but getting there. And then I can start to break out and start to finish the other parts. And this will eventually start to come together. It's going to kind of get exciting because you'll see the fabric folding and it's going to work out. And that's why I love this medium. It's so fast and easy and quick as long as you know your tools. And you kind of see the tools that I have here. It's going to angle this down just a hair. You can kind of see all of my tools here. I guess I don't need this thing. It's going to get dirty. But this is where I am right now. And you should have these in front of you. I'm going to angle this up and do another, what do you call it? Time lapse. There we go.